he stayed in the safe house for the KGB. Anybody know that? You have to understand, who is Al Gore? Al Gore's family was partners with Arm & Hammer, a known socialist. We have been set up because they tell you in advance who's going to be the president. They've already told you Perot's set up for the next time as we go through this incredible collapse. The New World Order has got this thing set up. The New World Order, by the way, is basically dictated by a book of the Committee of 300. That's what they call themselves, the Committee of 300. Some of you may have this. If you don't get it, it's at several of the bookstores around here that we have, and we have it at our booth. Committee of 300 will name all the players and how they set this thing up into motion. And it was put into position so you could read it. They don't care, because once you read the book and find out how much power that they have, you're going to roll over and go to sleep. They hope. You're not going to do that, are you? We're not going to do that. We're not going to be sitting down and let a man like Bo Gritz, who is going to lead us out of the ashes, by the way, at some time, go through these things. We have to look at this thing. Don't you think that he had as few votes as coming, that they were controlled? If they already knew how many votes are in back and who the president is in advance, the Electoral College is a total farce. They know in advance. Why did Bush go home early? He said, enough's enough, guys. We don't get the information through the national media because the national media is controlled by the Committee of 300 through their various organizations. It's up to you to discuss that and find out and discover and share with your friends. Now, what to do? Their plan, let me tell you a little what's been going on, because we have a few minutes. I told you a little bit about the banks and the $500 billion, you'll get other people, that they're down within the group of banks that FDIC is supposed to cover. Who is FDIC? That's you guys. What about FSLIC, Federal Savings Loan Insurance Corporation? That's you guys. That's how we get into this big debt. What they haven't told you is what happened to the assets. Why did they create a corporation called Resolution Trust Corporation? By the way, it has $1 trillion worth of real estate. $1 trillion. Remember, we're $4 trillion in debt? We are. They took the assets. The banking setup was agreement, like the Citicorp, etc., was to loan money to foreign countries, and if it didn't pay off, you guys get to swallow it. Isn't that interesting? In your debt. And so what we've done is strangled ourselves. I'm going to talk about some institutions. We just talked about the banks. The information I just gave you was on C-SPAN. Congressman Gonzalez, who's the chairman of the banking community, who was investigating the BCCI, that's the Bank of Crooks and Criminals, okay, who was exporting our money to Switzerland and involved in a lot of different ways. And then massive groups of people around the United States in various programs in order to get you, the working people's money, down the tube. I mean, look, I was down at the tube talking with Silverado Savings myself, so I knew the inside things were going on. The only thing is I didn't like to give them that $5 million kickback. Amazing. We could get together with projects, create an artificial value in real estate that wasn't there. How many of you know that when you buy a house, 20% of it is soft cost? It's an illusion. It's not real. It's fees that we created for appraisers, bank fees, commitments forwarding, all kinds of things. So an illusion. And guess what happened? FHA or whatever organization that you borrowed your money from loaned you 95% against an asset that only had bricks and stones of maybe 80%, and of that we were making money. Understand that this whole real estate world is going to collapse down, and my estimate is about 10 cents on the dollar. There is real estate that I hold currently in the United States, and what I call the prime area, that I can't get any money for. Now, where would what I call the most prime area in the United States? Beverly Hills. There's no lenders. There's nobody out here with any money, and if they do loan you any money, it's for a 5-year loan. After 5 years, they're going to take it because there won't be anybody else to take it from you. Interesting. Resolution Trust is going to drop $1 trillion of the real estate on you when they collapse the banks because they got to get money. They're also going to do another thing. The stock market is 100% manipulated. Now, let me tell you a bit about the stock market. I'm a broker-dealer. Broker-dealer is an underwriter of securities, or I was. I gave up my licenses last time, and my securities firm when the stock market dropped 500 points. Do you remember that? At that time, the Federal Reserve sent me a notice and said, guys, you got to maintain a market. Maintain the stocks so they don't go away because the American people aren't ready yet. So what happens is they said, we'll loan you all the money you need to maintain the market. That's called an underwriter or a specialist on the floor for you guys who are in the securities business. Well, that also means I'm looking at it as a businessman. If the market's going down, the stock is worthless, which they all are right now, why would I continue to borrow money to maintain the market? I chose to back out, and so did most of my other friends. Guess what happened? The Federal Reserve, who creates money, you're going to hear other people talk about it, creates it artificially, puts 6 members on the floor of the exchange with the plan to run the market up to 3,500. You guys ready for that? It's 3,250 today, roughly. Got 250 more points to run up. You watch it run up to 3,500 because they think that you guys are going to be like sheep to slaughter. At the 3,500 point, they're going to pull away all of their, quote, support. Now, if you've been researching the market, you'll find that in the Wall Street Journal, just in the last 3 weeks, they admitted that the Federal Reserve was buying forwards on your stocks. They also aren't telling you that some of our stock exchange members are being manipulated by the Committee of 300 in executing purchase orders for you to buy stocks, but they're not executing sales. You can't get rid of your stock. Now, because everybody looks at the so-called Dow Jones, and again, that's an illusion, it's a copyrighted name, Dow Jones. It's made up of a list of stocks, and the man who does that is by the name of Pearlstein. Now, the stock market wasn't going up fast enough, so guess what they did? They started changing stock in the Dow Jones listing to make the thing appear like it's going up. I'll give you a for instance. You've all heard of a company called U.S. Steel. It's no longer on that list. They replace it with Disney. How about Caterpillar? It's no longer on there either because all of our farmers are going broke, right? So what's the next scenario? They replace that with Navistar, another computer company. I'm just giving you, it goes on because that's the manipulation that they're doing within the stock market. They've also told their members, again, we're going to give you the names on the exchange that handle the pension funds and also the insurance companies that buy securities to continue to buy these stocks and keep the load going up. Because when the insurance companies go, and by the way, 94% of the insurance companies in the United States are fiscally insolvent. Whether you know that or not, I want to give you a for instance. Fiscally insolvent, and I'm going to give you some accounting. Everybody in here should be a real good accountant right now. I buy an apartment house right here in Salt Lake City. I pay $1 million for it. And I have an income, and I'm just going to give you an idea. It's given me $150,000 a year. That's roughly the rule of thumb. However, this apartment house is worth on my books $1 million. For some reason, the neighborhood goes south, and now it's totally empty. How much is that apartment house worth? I'm still liable for the taxes on it, but it's not worth very much, is it? The insurance companies are still allowed to book that apartment house on their books at that $1 million. Okay? They also bought, you guys heard of a guy by the name of Milliken? Milliken created what we call artificial money by using junk bonds, creating debt that was at high yields and getting his buddy in the insurance companies and in pension funds to buy those high yield things. So some of my other friends, and I don't know whether they're friends of mine anymore because I tell exactly what's going on, they'd be able to go do these, what we call leveraged buyouts with these so-called junk bonds. Now, the insurance companies have those on assets. Now, junk bonds, maybe 3% of their total, maybe they're worth 3 cents on a dollar today. That's what we're telling you. They are worthless. And yet the insurance company says, hey, I'm strong. Well, let me tell you how strong they are. The oldest life insurance company in the United States went bankrupt last year, Mutual Benefit Life. Never hear of that? 88% of its assets are what we call non-performing. Remember the apartment house that wasn't working? Of junk bonds, not bringing any interest? 88%. Small company like Travelers Life Insurance Company, 94% of its assets are non-performing currently. Equitable Life Insurance Company, 56% of its assets. What we're saying is, I'm just giving you some of the names. Run like crazy if you have money insurance companies. Get it out. Okay, mutual funds are another game that were created. Mutual funds were to diversify your potential investment, have a fund manager take it, put the money into a bank to hold it. So the fund manager made money by making the decisions off of you and supposedly taken off the risk so you didn't have to worry about things, right? Well, if all of the stock market's manipulated right now, which it is, by the way, the lowest earnings in the stock market's history is today. Did you know that? The last 30 years, the yields on stocks is the lowest earnings. Mutual funds, however, cash-wise, are almost 100% investment. It's invested in the stocks right now. Isn't that a clue? What's going to occur is when this market crashes, the mutual funds will have no place to go because there's no place to buy the stocks. Remember the market makers, the guys, the underwriters like myself? Why would I want to buy something that's worthless in the first place and it's going to go south? I'm just giving you some clues to what's happening. Now, they know, as sheep, that you guys are going to go to slaughter because they purposely, the Federal Reserve, dropped the interest rates to about 3%. Remember? Go to the bank. Now, you got to pay taxes, they tell you, on that 3%. And that doesn't sound very good, but here's this stock market. Boy, look at it. It keeps right on going, right? Meanwhile, we're exporting all of our companies to all other countries. We got 40 million Americans out of work. They're not telling you the truth. Even Paul Harvey the other day said there's 25 million Americans on food stamps. Did you know that? Today in the paper, they come up and they said, hey, guys, we've got the greatest. We've got first-time applicants now of only about 400,000. Best thing we've had, right? Who's making those figures up? I mean, they keep telling you. They don't tell you those are first-time applicants. There's 40 million Americans out of work. After you use up your unemployment benefits, the 26 weeks or whatever period you have, what are you considered after that next day? You're considered back employed. There's probably people in this room right now that have been out of work for 6 months or longer. No longer eligible for the so-called unemployment benefits. Okay, now tell me another thing. Unemployment benefits come from where? The states? The states are bankrupt. They're not only bankrupt, but the municipal cities are bankrupt. If you have municipal bonds, they're not even paying off. So can you imagine what's going on? We got insurance companies going bad. The banks are going down. There's going to be 5 of them left. That's all their plan is, to keep track of your exchange. Currently, right now, at Fort Knox is the new colored money and food rationing coupons. Right this minute. Also at all the other Federal Reserves. Because it could be, in the next 90 days, they're going to see what you guys do. How much this thing goes along, how much more they can squeeze out of you before they collapses. Now, we need you to work, and so I'm going to tell you what they're planning so you can get prepared. The stock market, historically, when it fell, and all civilizations have fallen, what does money do? It goes to the base metals, like sheep. Gold and silver. Don't go to platinum because that's a Mickey Mouse game. Gold and silver. They're going to allow gold purposely to go to $2,000 an ounce. That's their goal. They're going to let silver go to $100 an ounce. By the way, silver went up 30 cents today. Okay? What you should buy, and I'm just going to give you rough numbers now, is bags of old silver coins if you can find them. They're about $2,900 a bag for a $1,000 face amount. At 30 cents up today, maybe they're going to be $3,000 a bag. Don't worry about it. They'll be worth $100,000. You're also, if you have large amounts of money, you want to buy gold. Gold is about $350, and I'm just using rough numbers because I haven't checked this morning. But anyway, at $350, it's going to go to $2,000. And what do you want to do with it? When it gets up there, and people that subscribe to our newsletter and newspapers, we will tell you approximately what time it is because, frankly, the hosts are watching us. They want to make sure you have the money to go through this thing so we can be able to reclaim our country. It's been sold down the tubes. So we want to know, you got to get rid of it. At that point, we'll probably move our money into Treasury bills because our government has to continue to run at all costs for a short period of time. Now, under the Plan 2000 provisions, one of the other things that are incredible is by the year 2000, they want to reduce the world's population down to about 500 million. That's documented. All you have to do is get the documents from the government. The meeting that was in Brazil last year, I just got a copy out of Gebhardt's office, who's in charge of it, or one of the people in charge of it, and we just published it. I don't have a copy with me, but they said at the meeting in Brazil that we weren't reducing the population fast enough with the creation of AIDS. So now they're going to have to increase the reduction of the population by other things that they have, such as beam machines, frequency weapons. They're sterilizing. Most of the people in South America, the women, are about 60% of them are sterilized by the food they've been given and grains. Just so you know, it's a massive campaign to reduce the population. They are planning to start a nuclear war in the Middle East. Watch it. And it's also to continue on to the United States. There's only expected to be about 20 million Americans left alive, and I hope you all are. Just ask for protection of God as we go down the line, because things are going to get tough. When the market goes up to 3,500 or close to it, boy, you better get ready, because everything's going to break loose. You will notice it because they've already told you a date when the banks will have to be shut down, and that was in December. Now, they can continue the game going on as long as they want to. I didn't think they could, but how many in here know we haven't a budget in the United States? Interesting. Just a few of you. 2 years ago, we had a, quote, national debt that had to be satisfied in a budget given to the American people by September 30th. That's the fiscal year, remember? Remember about 3 years ago when Bush says, I'm going to shut this country down, and he laid the people off up in Yellowstone? What happened last year? What happened this year? Last year, I'll tell you, was interesting. On September 30th, our debt the previous January was $3.1 trillion. We were going on the whole about $1.2 billion every day. They come up to September 30th and it says, oh my land, we don't have any money coming in. There's not even enough money coming in on taxes now to pay the interest to the Federal Reserve, just to give you an idea. So what's happening is they sent Baker over to the Middle East. He's kind of the front man. I'm kind of interested to see what